Yeah, actually, while Don's getting that ready, I'll just tell you, World War II was always very important to me, even as a kid. Um, my dad was Air Force, and we lived in Iceland and Guam. I actually lived on Guam
Yeah.
in the 1970s. And then for me to find out that my grandpa had actually been at Guam in World War II.
Uh-huh.
He was on an LCI gunboat, and they were protecting the underwater demolition team Frogmen. And they were so close to the beach that the dogs were barking at them.
Yeah.
And I was like, my goodness, that's pretty close.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were doing too. In fact, we were so close that there was riflemen out there on the beach shooting at the frogmen.
Oh my
And,
gosh. And where was that at? At Iwo?
that was at Evo, yeah. Yeah, we were protecting them. They were looking for underwater uh, the constructions that would hold up the boats as they came in on the day of the invasion.
Wow.
And
My goodness. Well, we're getting ready to talk about that. That's for sure.
yeah,
Well, let me intro the show and we'll get started.
Okay.
Digital 410 Media proudly presents the What's the Scuttlebutt Podcast with your hosts, Don Abernathy, Jeff Copsetta, and Dennis Blocker.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt Podcast, your favorite World War II based podcast. And we are back with an exciting episode. Dennis gets all the credit for this one. We're getting back to our roots. Without any further ado, Dennis, why don't you introduce our very esteemed guest for tonight's podcast? And once again, thanks for you, fella, for tracking down this gentleman and bringing them to all of our audience attention.
It was cold, unlike anything the sailors had experienced before. And as the sun began to peek over the horizon, it cast light on the island, Iwo Jima. Steadily, purposefully, the long line of LCI gunboats plodded forward toward the black volcanic island. How could anyone live on such a god-forsaken place? Aboard the LCI G-449, John Overchuck calls out to a shipmate, "Looks like Frankenstein's Island." The veterans of Kwajalein, Inuiatok, Perry, Saipan, Guam, Tinian moved forward, certain of their mission and dedicated to the task. Aboard the ship was my grandfather, Seaman First Class Clifford Lemke, and behind him, looking over his shoulder like a big brother, was a destroyer, the USS Leutze. And aboard that destroyer was a Radarman we are very proud to welcome to our podcast today. And it is with honor that I welcome Radarman Morris Neighbors. Mr. Neighbors, thank you so much for being with us, sir.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for asking.
Well, Mr. Neighbors, where did you grow up?
I grew up right in a little town, or actually a rural community called Wild Horse, Oklahoma. I was there until I was 13 years old, and then we moved to Tulsa, and I grew up there. Actually, went to Central High in Tulsa, and I graduated in the year that the war started, 1941. But I didn't. I was only 16 when I graduated, so uh, I had a year of college, and then in 1943 I entered the Navy from one of the Tulsa recruiting stations in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Do you remember what you were doing when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Well, actually, we were in church that Sunday, and we were headed home from church and listening on the radio, and we heard the news on the radio in our car as we were heading home from church. It was about 12 noon when we heard about it.
Now, I got to ask, Oklahoma is landlocked. So,
Yeah.
how in the world did you decide I'm going to go in the Navy? Had you ever seen the ocean before?
No, and that was one of the reasons. I've been telling people I grew up in a little place where the biggest body of water I ever saw was the Arkansas River. I'd always been fascinated by the Navy because of what I had seen in the movies, you know. And when the war started, Of course, I didn't have any idea what I would be doing because it would be a couple, 3 years before I was old enough to join. But I always had in mind I wanted to join the Navy.
Did you have any Navy veterans in your family?
No, uh, we didn't. But of course, once the war started, why, I had three older brothers that were in, and two of them, one of them was in the Navy, and one was in the Merchant Marines, and the third one was in the Air Force. So I did have one brother that joined the Navy ahead of me.
No, that's just great. Mr. Neighbors, did your brothers all make it home? Did everybody make it back?
No, I lost two brothers in the war. The one in the Navy, he was on a destroyer escort, and his ship was bombed right off the coast of Newfoundland by a German sub, and we lost him in 1945. And my other brother in the Air Force survived World War II, but we lost him in Korea.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Your family made quite a contribution to the war effort there then.
Yes, we had all four of us in at one time, and of course two of them didn't make it back.
My goodness. How did you hear about your brother in 1945? Did you get it from the mail, the V-mail, the Red Cross? How'd they notify you? Because you were in the service by that time.
Yes, my folks notified me by mail after they heard about after they were notified. They notified me. Yeah.
What does that do to you inside? Is that
Well, it was a sad thing, all right, but of course we had things to do anyhow. That
Yeah.
Actually that month of April '45 was kind of a bad month. President Roosevelt died in that same month, and of course that threw the nation into a fury, and so
he was probably the only president you ever remembered?
yeah, he was the president for ever since 1929, I guess, or 31, I think. So 32 is when he came in.
Where did you train out of?
We trained in San Diego at the boot camp there. And of course, when they gave me a test to see what I was good at, why they were looking for people that were recent graduates of high school or college because of their math scores. And they said, "Well, you're going to be a radar man." I said, "Well, what's that?" Radar was brand new back then, and I had never heard of it. But after about a 3-week training course, why, I was a radar man.
That's it. 3 weeks. That's
all
quick.
I did was I just operated. I didn't work on them or repair them or anything, but I was trained to be a radar operator. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, brand new technology, not just for you, but for everybody.
Yeah.
And to be proficient enough at it at 3 weeks to be deemed worthy to help detect oncoming and outgoing planes and Navy vessels as well, correct?
Yeah,
Your radars
planes
picked up.
and ships, and of course we could pick up land masses too, and anything that was solid that would bounce an electric beam back. Well, we could pick it up.
What was the range on those early systems?
We could pick up airplanes as far as 80 miles away if they were high enough. Of course, these beams, the electric beams, don't bend.
Yeah.
And a ship could only be picked up if it was inside the horizon. We could, depending on the size of the ship, we could pick it up at 10, maybe 10 miles. Couldn't identify it at that rate, but we could tell something was there.
Mm.
But our main job was really picking up air flights that came in.
Do you remember the first time you were at your battle station and you picked up a legit ping from a real enemy aircraft opposed to training?
Yes, it was during the invasion of Leyte Gulf.
In 1944, during World War II, was the largest naval battle of the war and a decisive turning point in the Pacific. It took place near the Philippine islands of Leyte as Allied forces launched a major invasion to liberate the Philippines from Japanese control. In response, Japan attempted a complex naval operation to destroy the invasion fleet and disrupt its landings. Although they achieved some early tactical successes, the Japanese forces ultimately suffered catastrophic losses in ships, aircraft, and trained personnel. The battle effectively destroyed Japan's ability to conduct large-scale naval operations and secured Allies' dominance in the Pacific, helping pave the way to the eventual defeat of Japan in World War II.
We had already been to Palau, and we didn't get any enemy substance there, because they had deserted the island, but they'd left a bunch of troops there to make it hard for us to get. But we didn't really get any return fire from the enemy until we got into the invasion of Leyte Gulf. And the first day that we had fired on a lot of planes that were attacking other ships of ours. But on this particular day, there was a dive bomber and a Zero that were working in tandem, and the Zero strafed us, and the dive bomber tried to put one down a stack, but our captain was smart enough to run out from under it, and that was when I decided that I wasn't going to be afraid, because it looked like we were just as good as they were, because we shot down both those planes,
Wow.
the strafer and the dive bomber.
Wow.
So I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, I know there was some, early on in the war, there was a lot of preconceived notions and thoughts about the invincibility of the Japanese Navy and the Japanese Air Force. And
Yeah.
as you just said, once you guys saw firsthand that, oh, that's not the case, it probably made things a little less anxious. Obviously, the anxiety is still going to be there, but at least now you have a morale boost, and you think, okay, this is possible.
Yeah. Well, before you've ever been in combat, why, you wonder, can I handle it? Or, how am I going to react? And that was the day I found out. And I didn't have any real problem facing it after that.
I think Dennis alluded to it at the beginning. What sort of vessel were you stationed to?
It's DD-481, USS Leutze, Leutze.
The USS Leutze, DD-841, was a Fletcher-class destroyer that served in World War II and played an active role in the Pacific Theater. Commissioned in 1943, she was named after Rear Admiral John Leutze and quickly became involved in major naval operations supporting Allied advances across the Pacific Islands. The ship provided screening for larger fleet units, escort convoys, and took part in shore bombardments during amphibious landings. During her service, she saw intense action, including surviving damage in combat and continuing to fight in key engagements that helped weaken Japanese defenses and positions. After the war, she was eventually decommissioned, but her service record reflects the crucial roles destroyers played in maintaining sea control and supporting island hopping campaigns that led to the Allied victory.
What was that like, reporting aboard the ship when you first saw it? I've seen the photographs of that ship, and it's pretty.
Well, the ship was they're about 300 feet long, and they have around 300 sailors on it, so you don't have much space to move around, but I didn't have any real feelings about it. I just thought, well, that's my ship, and it's a brand new one, and hopefully we've got some guys on there that know what they're doing.
That's a very good point. The morale boost you had to have from a brand new ship, because as we all know, there was a lot of repurposed ships that were turning everything from destroyers to flat tops to fly planes off of that were nothing more than a transport barge 28 years prior. So to be on a new ship with the latest technology, especially as a radio man, it probably made you feel, a little bit better in your position.
Yes, we were very comfortable with it. Yes.
Sir,
And,
how long did it take you to get your sea legs?
well, we went to sea just on a cruise. That was our purpose of it. And everybody that hadn't been to sea before got seasick. And of course, you didn't get any sympathy from anybody because everybody was doing it. But you carried your little bucket around and you went ahead and did your job. And
Wow.
I don't think there was anybody on the ship that didn't get seasick. But that was the purpose of that first voyage to get that out of our system.
How many days of misery was that?
Well, it was over in about 3 days. I mean, you get over it, and after that, why, you feel like you're a real sailor.
Now, in wartime, did you guys were things so anxious and on the move, or did you guys get the opportunity to participate in the traditions of crossing the line when you guys finally went over the equator? During World War II, one of the most time-honored traditions in the U.S. Navy was the crossing the line ceremony, marking a sailor's first time crossing the equator. Known as polywogs before the event, these inexperienced sailors would undergo playful but oftentimes rough initiation overseen by seasoned crew members called shellbacks, who had already crossed before. The ceremony, rooted in century-old naval customs, typically involved costumes, skits, and a series of messy or physically demanding challenges designed to test the endurance and build camaraderie. At the center of it all was the mythical figure King Neptune, who would preside over the proceedings and would ultimately declare the polywogs to be full-fledged shellbacks. While it could be intimidating, this ritual was meant to boost morale and forge strong sense of unity among the sailors facing harsh realities of wartime service at sea.
Yeah, we had that initiation. Before you crossed the line, you were a polywog, and once you crossed the line and went through the ceremony, you were a shellback.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there weren't any women on ships in those days, and we had to all strip down naked. And one of the things that they did to us, they had a large canvas tube
Oh,
that we had to crawl through, and they had been saving the garbage from the ship for a week rather than throwing it overboard. So that was the main deal about our initiation. We had to crawl through that canvas tube full of garbage. And when we got out the other end, there was a guy there with a electric cattle prod that hit us in the rear end. And then there was the sea nymph that we had to kiss his belly button. And then, of course, they showered us with cold seawater to get us clean again. It was quite an initiation.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's not every day that people get to meet King Neptune.
What was the greatest degree that you guys turned? The high seas. Did you guys ever hit, 15, 20 degrees turn or
Well, yeah. Of course, the destroyer, they said, could do a 45-degree turn without collapsing, but if it went any beyond that, it was over. I don't think we ever reached that point, but a destroyer was a very speedy ship. It was just made out of 3/8-inch steel, and it had two 600 horsepower motors, and so it could do the speed of up to 45 knots.
wow.
And we've done that a time or two. We made a torpedo run on a battleship in the Surigao Straits during the invasion of Leyte Gulf, and we reached our limit then when we were making the torpedo run.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, it was the Navy had the Japanese Navy had sent a large fleet down there to try to break up the invasion of Leyte, and we intercepted them in Surigao Straits, which is the lead-in strait to Leyte Gulf, and included in that group was one of the. It was a sister ship of the Yamashita, which was the largest battleship the Japanese had ever built. It was like 65,000 tons,
Goodness.
and we had a squadron of 6 destroyers. All 6 of them didn't weigh but about half of what that battleship did.
Mm.
But we made it was a midnight run, real dark, and somewhere back in our early days, our captain had told us that it was every captain's dream to put a torpedo in the belly of a battleship. But he said, and we were all agreeing, boy, we'll be there with you. But he said, Navy analysts say that when a destroyer goes up against a battleship, the life of that destroyer is 3 minutes. And we thought, oh, let's think this over a little bit. But he said they'll fire 3 shots. The first one will be long, the second will be short, and then the third one will be right in the middle. And it takes most battleship gunners about 3 minutes to get that third shot off. So when we were making that run on the battleship, I was on the surface board plotting the course and speed of the battleship that we were zeroing in on, and I kept counting off in my head. Is it 3 minutes yet? And actually, they were firing at us, but we got our torpedoes off. A destroyer carries two loads of torpedoes, 5 each. You can fire 5 of them at a time. So we fired all 10 of our torpedoes, and at the time that they were supposed to get there, we heard this great explosion. And of course, we claimed that our torpedoes were the ones that sunk the ship. Of course, all of our destroyers in the squadron claimed the same thing. But because all their torpedoes exploded about the same time too. But at least we put it up on our forecastle that we had sunk a battleship.
That's amazing. Now, you would have been very, very busy, right? Because it's a nighttime operation, so you can't see, so they're depending on you.
That's right. Yeah, we had to plot the course and speed of the battleship, taking information from the radar operator. And of course, our officer would pass that on to the torpedo people so they'd know how to aim their torpedoes.
Wow.
As a radio man, the radar man, did you feel kind of the pressure of knowing that it's kind of you guys to see things coming or to plot these courses to catch up to ships that you're all pursuing?
Well, we knew it was our responsibility. I mean, they told us from the very beginning that you're the eyes and ears of the ship.
Wow.
And we don't do anything until you tell us what's coming in. Of course, our main purpose was to pick up the planes at a distance so that we'd have time to get ready for them. And of course, once they got within eyesight, why our radars didn't need them then. But of course, we were inside, but we could always hear the guns firing, and our main battery was 5-inch guns, which shoot about a 52-pound bullet that's explosive. And then we had 40 millimeters that shoot quicker, and then we had 20 millimeters that were just like a machine gun.
Wow.
And as long as we were hearing the 5-inch guns, we were pretty happy. But when those when those machine guns started, we knew they were getting pretty close.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Goodness.
I'm glad you answered that because I was going to ask you the size of the guns on your ship. But you mentioned earlier that the steel and the makeup of the vessel. Was there any place in the ship where one could hear the register of the cannons any less? I mean, because you're basically in a steel ship with no insulation. I imagine it didn't matter if you're in the stem or the stern. The percussion of those guns probably didn't change in volume much, but maybe in the engine room where you're standing next to the diesel. But there probably wasn't anywhere safe on that ship to get away to reduce that volume at all, was there?
no, we could always hear we could hear all the guns that went off. Of course, the 5-inch guns were the loudest, but the others uh, were like machine guns, but you could still hear them. Yeah.
I was thinking about that and how I was trying to put myself in your shoes and how, at least if you're on a gun, you can see what's coming in, right? You're out on the
Right,
deck, you can, and that must have just been, like you said, I love the way you put that, sir. That was just great. Like you hear the 5 inches, you're like, okay. And you start hearing the 40s and you're like, oh boy. You hear the 20s and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, they're here.
The bathroom's that way. This is what we call an intermission, in case you need to get a drink or. Hey, while you're here, did you know that we have T-shirts in a merch store over at WTSPWorldWar2.com? We do. We've had it for quite some time. So if you want to help support the show, spread the word, let people know about your favorite World War II podcast, do us a favor. Head over to WTSPWorldWar2.com/merch and check out our merch. We got the classic WTSP t-shirts. We have the new blonde bomber that just came out. The brunette bomber is on its way. We have hats, coffee mugs, and so much more. So do me a favor, help spread the word. Go to WTSPWorldWar2.com/merch and check out our store. And after you're done using the restroom, the interview's that way.
Well, my grandfather crossed paths with you at Iwo Jima. And the 2 days before the Marines hit the beaches there on the 19th, you guys were there on the 17th and the 16th.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was on one of those LCI gunboats, and they were firing the rockets. And on that UDT mission of February 17th, 1945. And I know that you guys were down towards the end, just off Mount Suribachi, where they would raise that flag.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the mission that day and what happened to you guys there?
Well, like I said, we were accompanying a small airboat that had these frogmen on it, and they had to go in real close to dive down and see what kind of structures had been built there to stop our boats on the invasion day. Of course, Iwo Jima is just a big rock. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. And they had built caves in there and had their shore batteries, and you couldn't. They bombed that place for 30 days and didn't do any damage at all.
Wow.
And these, I'm sure these gun mounts were told not to fire on these ships until invasion day, because once they fired, they'd know they'd know your location, and then they'd wipe you out. And so that was one thing that we thought might get us by without getting hurt. But as we got closer and closer to shore, in order to protect those frogmen, I guess there's one of those guys that just felt like he couldn't stand it any longer, because here was a major ship of the line right there within 500 yards. And he decided he was going to get a load of it. So he fired on us. I'm sure he was firing at the superstructure, because that's where the eyes of the ship. That's where the captain is and where the bridge is. And but by the time he aimed and by the time he fired, we had moved about 20 feet. And so instead of hitting the superstructure where we were, he hit the forward stack and blew it off. And but it started fires in a 20 millimeter arsenal that was right above us, and the automatic sprinklers came on and flooded the radar room, and we had to get out of there because all of the electricity and the water don't mix too well. And
Wow.
on that day, our captain was severely wounded by that one. He caught some shrapnel from that explosive shell that it blew our tank our candle off, and so he had to leave the ship, and our executive officer took over. But of course, immediately our guns wiped out that sword battery that fired on us, and none of the rest of them fired. But I think we were probably the only casualty before invasion day.
Wow.
We lost a lot of men on that day. I mean, I think we lost 6,000 men at Iwo Jima.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Your skipper, from what I was reading in the battle report and from the firsthand accounts from the shipmates, your shipmates, they said he was paralyzed,
Yes.
but he didn't remain paralyzed, did he?
No, he recovered and was actually back in service before the war ended, and he went ahead and retired later on as an admiral. He was a
Oh, wow.
commodore at that point, commander, yeah.
You know, and you guys were, I mean, just one invasion after another, just boom, 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 and then the next thing, you guys are heading off to Okinawa.
Yeah.
And you know, that's February, March, that's Iwo Jima right away, 1 April. You guys are heading up and you're taking part in the invasion at Okinawa. And that's when, you know, this in particular, just terrible. The sky's full of kamikaze. And
Right.
I know that there was some of that in the Philippines, but nothing to the scale that happened at Okinawa.
No, we were in land. We were in within 50 miles or 100 miles of land base, and they were able to use their land-based planes for the first time. And at the war's end, it was estimated they had lost 700 planes, most of them kamikazes, right there at Okinawa. And on the day that we were hit, there was a flight of 280 came over, and we were out there 50 miles north as picket duty. It was our duty to spot those planes and let our fleet know so they could launch against them. And when those 280 some planes went over, well, about 30 of them peeled off to get the picket duty people, and that's when we got hit. Our sister ship, the Newcomb, had taken 3 hits from kamikazes and was just burning from stem to stern, and we pulled alongside to help put out the fires, and they were asked, they asked everybody that could leave their battle station to come out and fight the fires. And I was able to do that. So we didn't need radar then because we had our sight people. So I was out on deck with a fire hose trying to put out some of the fire on the Newcomb. And the next airplane that came in came across, bounced across nuke them and exploded on our fantail carrying a 500-pound bomb.
Wow.
And that's the day I got my Purple Heart. I was out there with that fire hose, and of course, whenever the bomb went off, why, everything on the ship went 2 feet to the right. Anybody that was standing up fell, and of course, there was no soft places to land on the ship. And even though we had about 70 Purple Hearts that day, the main ones was like me that just got thrown around and had sprained ankles, sprained shoulders, and bumps and bruises and things like that. So my my doctor the next day, I couldn't walk, and he said, "Well, how did this happen?" Well, I told him what happened, and said yesterday when the plane hit, and he said, "Well, I'm putting you in for Purple Heart." So I got a Purple Heart, but it wasn't really a really life-threatening thing at that moment.
How many guys did y'all lose on your ship?
We lost about 30 that day, because if there's anything fortunate about getting hit, it's where you get hit. And the bomb exploded in our dining room and living quarters, and of course there was nobody there because we were all at the general quarters. But the main group that got killed was in the after gun shop. They had one 5-inch gun back there on the fantail, and it wiped it out, and all 7 or 8 in that were killed, and there was a few others that were close enough to the explosion that they were killed too. But for the most part, the main injuries were just from being knocked around on a place where there's no soft place to land.
Wow.
And some of them went overboard when they saw the plane coming in. Some of them had to go overboard, and we picked them up.
My goodness. I seen photographs of your ship, and it's a miracle that you guys weren't cut in two.
Yeah. We came very close to having that fantail blown clear off. We did lose one screw, and the other one had a bent shaft. And when we went back to the States, why, we could only make 10 knots, and we were going to come back and get the ship fixed up. But while we were home, the war ended, and so they scrapped the ship. It wasn't worth fixing up for a peacetime Navy. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Earlier, Dennis was talking about how your ship got sent from one mission to the next. In between those ports, if you will, how did you guys refit, rearmor, refuel? Did you go back to a port, or did they just have larger ships come up next to you and offload? Explain that process to us.
They had ships that came alongside called destroyer tenders, really. And whenever we got low on ammunition, well, they'd come along and replenish, and also bring food and things like that. Yeah, we rarely put into port while we were out there. We were always at sea, and we're dependent on ships to bring us what we needed.
We just discussed the impact of kamikaze attacks on your ship and your fellow Navy and sailor ships. Do you recall whether it was in basic training, when you first got on your ship, when you and your shipmates were first educated on this new Japanese tactics of kamikaze airplanes? It's one thing to be on a ship, perhaps somebody zeroed in on you, shot some artillery at you, you can zigzag, and if your number's up, your number's up. But when the device that's coming for you can maneuver, it kind of changes the concept of my number being up a little bit. What was that like when you personally first learned, or maybe you heard about it in newsreels before you got out there? When did you learn about kamikazes, and what was that like?
Well, we didn't really encounter any kamikazes until Okinawa, and we just knew that either you shot it down or you got hit. That was just the 1, 2, 3 of it. And of course, the kamikazes didn't carry any ammunition other than a bomb every now and then. So, but we just know that once they started for you, you better shoot it down or you were going to get hit. And of course, the one that hit us, we didn't have a chance to fire on it because the Nukem was between us and the ship that was coming in, and all we could do was just let it come.
Wow.
And it was supposed to hit the Nukem, but instead it just kind of bounced across their deck and then hit ours and exploded in ours. But we didn't really get a chance to fire on it. So
Yeah.
The memorial service for your shipmates, were you able to attend that, or
yes, we had I guess you call it a funeral service, and then since we were at sea, why they were buried at sea. I mean, they had the funeral and then they were sent overboard. That was their burial place. Yeah.
I have video of my grandfather's group at Iwo Jima. They're the gunboats that were there with you that day. They all were hit several times, and my grandfather's gunboat, the 449, was hit by 3 mortars. And the characteristic of mortars is that they drop in from above, right among all the gun crews.
Yeah.
So they had, of a crew of 70, my grandpa's gunboat had 21 killed and 22 wounded that day.
Uh-huh.
And we do have video that was shot aboard the battleship Nevada at Iwo Jima. See, the LCI 441 pulled up to the Nevada with their casualties, and it was really something because the cameramen actually took still photographs and video of the crew of the battleship Nevada bringing aboard these LCI guys who had been killed. And you see them put the guys in the mattress covers and in the bed mattress covers, and they put a 5-inch shell at their feet, and they sew the cover shut, and then they looks like they place them on a plank of wood, and they cover them with the American flag.
Yeah.
And then they had a priest that came and prayed over them, and then they had a Protestant chaplain pray over them, and they had a 21 gun salute, and then the bugle, and the fellows walked to the rail of the ship and slid the guys off into the ocean. Now, you guys had damage, so you had damage control crews and all that. So were you able to have a ceremony like that, or was it more informal?
Oh, yes, we had a ceremony like that, and our ship had been really kind of put together just good enough for us to sail, but not good enough for us to actually be in combat. But we were able to gather back there and do that ceremony, and we weren't battle ready yet, though. Yeah.
After the war, did your destroyer, did the guys get together? Did they get together for reunions?
Yes, it was a long time before I discovered that we were having reunions. I kept in touch with several of them by mail, the ones that I was closest to on the ship. But in 1995, I discovered that they had been having reunions there for a while. And I went to my first one in 1995 in Jacksonville, and there was 40 of us there that had made it. That was 50 years after.
Wow.
And but we've had a reunion every year since then. And as far as I know, I'm the only one that's still able to make it. But our families, the families of our veterans and my family have bonded together and just really love each other like their own family. And it's kind of like a new family we've got. And so they look forward to the reunions every year, even though there might not be any veterans there.
So did they come to, did you all have one this year? Did they come to you?
Yes, they came on my 100th birthday.
Oh,
We
wow.
also had one in Colorado Springs on my 99th birthday. And they came for that. And we've hosted a couple of them even before that, and had really enjoyed doing it. So, yeah, it's something we really look forward to because it still brings back some great memories.
Wow. That's so great. I was fortunate that I got to meet some of the men that were with my grandpa. I didn't meet his shipmates. I tracked them down,
Yeah,
and Chuck Banco and William Hildebrand and Bruce Hallett. Bruce Hallett, he was wounded on the bow of the gunboat at Iwo, and he had crawled out of the 40 millimeter splinter shield, the gun tub, and he was hugging the prow of the ship, the very point of the ship. He was hugging it as the ammunition was blowing up over him. And his buddy Chuck Banco had been blown backwards and was also wounded. Well, they were both wounded and both burned, but both survived. But each thought the other had died because they had been evacuated and never saw each other again.
yeah.
And I was talking to Bruce Hallett, and he was like, "Yeah, I sure did. It was just so terrible about my buddy Chuck getting killed that day." And I says, I talked to Chuck last week." And he said, "What?" I go, "Yes, sir. Chuck Banco, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's my buddy." And I go, "I just talked to him last week. He lives in Wenatchee." He's like, "That's 70 miles from me." So I was able to reunite them, and I've got some great pictures of them sitting at a picnic table with their wives having a great time. It's just something how, like you said, how that, something like that can bring families together all those years later.
Right.
It's really something. I'm just very thankful that I got to experience that. And every once in a while, I dream about my grandpa, and I just look up at the ceiling when I wake up, and I just smile at God and I say, "Thank you. That was nice." But I just really appreciate you, sir, taking the opportunity to speak with
Absolutely.
us. My goodness, what an honor for us. And we just so appreciative of what you and what your shipmates did for us. And
Well, it was our privilege, and of course, it's amazing how the home front uh, adapted to the war. They were together on that subject more so than any other I've ever known. I mean, all that they wanted to do was get the war ended, and the only thing they looked for was news about the war, and they were, of course, required to give up a lot of things. We had 16 million men and women in uniform that had to be clothed, fed, and transported. So that means that the American citizens had to give up transportation, gasoline, rubber,
wow,
coffee, and a lot of things. But they did it willingly because they wanted to get that war over, and they were just absolutely incensed by the attack on Pearl Harbor. And of course, wars are run on the battlefront, but I felt like that our home front was really important during World War II. I got to spend time in both areas, and I'm really impressed with the way the home front reacted.
But we greatly appreciate your time and greatly appreciate your stories. Is there anything else you want to get out to our audience before we wrap it up?
Well, I think I about covered it all. I probably think of something later on, but that'll be in the middle of the night probably.
This has been a Digital 410 production.